They said I let them down. They didn't shout. There were no dramatic fights, no big talks, just silence, like I had walked off stage in the middle of a play, and no one cared enough to bring me back. At my brother's engagement dinner, I sat near the end of the table, next to a wall, my dress brushed against a cold heater. The candlelight didn't reach me. No one noticed when I showed up. I wasn't surprised. They didn't notice when I left the medical residency either, or when I moved out, or when I stopped giving real answers and just said, "I'm fine." The chicken was dry. The napkins were neat. My mom's earrings sparkled the way they always do. My brother David stood tall, surrounded by people laughing without needing me. I quietly cut my food and nodded if someone looked at me. I wasn't rude. I was just invisible. Then, during dessert, David's fiancée, Hannah, looked at me and frowned. "Wait," she said, "you're Claire Monroe." And just like that, everyone looked at me. I was supposed to be the one they were proud of. Claire Monroe, the oldest, straight-A student, future surgeon, the one who skipped prom to study biology, always smiling in family photos. People said I was going places, but no one asked what those places were when everything fell apart. I made it through college by working hard, top of my class, got into a competitive residency program. I still remember getting the acceptance email. My dad patted my back like dads do when they can't say, "I love you." My mom called everyone she knew. They thought I was starting something great. But something started to feel empty. It wasn't the patience or the pressure. It was coming home to silence. It was always smiling, always pretending, always living the story they expected of me. When I left the residency, I didn't leave in anger. I quietly folded my white coat, put it in the closet, and sat on the floor for hours. No one noticed. When I told them I was leaving, the phone went quiet. My mom softly asked, "So, what now?" I didn't know. I moved into a tiny studio apartment above a flower shop in Portland. No elevator, no fancy degrees on the wall, just the sound of rain and a slow-boiling kettle. They didn't ask where I went. They made up their own story. "She needs time. She's figuring things out. She gave up medicine. What a shame." At Thanksgiving, my aunt talked about David's promotion, twice. No one said my name. I brought dessert. No one ate it. I started writing again. Not stories or blogs, just my thoughts. Short things. Like, what if your worth isn't in what you keep doing, but what you're brave enough to stop? I knew they wouldn't get it. They didn't see the me who walked 10 blocks every day to help seniors learn how to use tablets. Or the me who helped a woman named Loretta join a Zoom call so she could watch her granddaughter's nursing school graduation, the same dream I had left behind. But maybe quitting wasn't failure. Maybe it was the first time I chose my own voice over their approval. At first, it felt like I was floating. I had no job to rush to, no patients, no scrub room, just the sound of buses on Hawthorne Avenue and the soft scent of flowers from the shop below. I started helping at the local library, just to feel useful. They had tech help sessions, older people trying to figure out email, passwords, and social media, things my generation doesn't think twice about. The first time I helped Mrs. Denning unlock her iPad, she cried. "I thought this thing hated me," she said, "but maybe it just needed some kindness." That moment stayed with me. There was something beautiful in helping someone feel less scared of a world that had moved on without asking if they were ready. Soon I began organizing structured sessions, small groups, printed guides in large fonts, simple language. Then came Brightbridge, not a company, not yet, just a name on a folder on my desktop, a bridge between generations, a place to feel seen again. I used my savings to build a basic website. I bought a voice-enabled plugin for accessibility. I recorded videos from my kitchen table with a borrowed mic and a $20 ring light. It was clunky, but it worked. Within 6 months, I had more signups than I could handle alone. Veterans, grandmothers, isolated men who hadn't spoken to their children in years. They called in, eager, awkward, full of hope. At night, I'd read their messages like prayers. I used FaceTime today for the first time. I saw my son's baby. Thank you. I sent my first email without asking my neighbor. I don't feel stupid anymore. Brightbridge was never supposed to be my redemption. It just became my way back into the world, one person at a time. Meanwhile, back at home, the silence grew louder. My parents never asked how things were going. They assumed I was doing a little tutoring, maybe working for a non-profit. My mother called it Claire's little project, once over dinner, with a smile that stung sharper than a slap. I didn't correct her. I'd learned something. When someone hands you a label, failure, disappointment, burden, you don't fight to change their mind. You build something too undeniable to be ignored, and when they still don't ask, you keep building. On my desk sat a wooden USB drive, carved from cherry wood, a gift from one of my earliest students. Inside it, the first version of Brightbridge, every update, every testimonial, a timeline of something real. I carried it with me everywhere, not to prove a point, just in case someone, someday, finally asked the right question. It was a Tuesday when the email arrived. Subject line, Stories That Connect, video submission from H. Carlisle. I clicked it without thinking. Every few days, Brightbridge received stories from users or their families, small thank yous, short clips, sometimes just a sentence or two about what the platform had done for them. This one opened with a young woman sitting beside an older lady on a floral couch. The younger one had soft eyes, a steady voice. "This is my grandmother, Ruth. She lost her husband last spring, and it's been hard, but thanks to Brightbridge, she was able to video call us every Sunday. She even learned how to use the online grocery app." My breath slowed. The woman on screen smiled at her granddaughter, then turned toward the camera. "Thank you, Brightbridge. Thank you, Claire. You helped me feel human again." The granddaughter leaned into her shoulder. "We're so grateful." I watched it again, and again. Then I saw the name, Hannah Carlisle. Hannah, David's fiancée. I sat back in my chair, blinking into the silence of my apartment. The only sound was the kettle clicking off behind me. She didn't know. She had no idea I was the Claire in the video. No idea the tool that helped her grandmother came from the same woman her future in-laws never talked about, never praised. She had found value in what I built without anyone telling her to. And that made it real in a way even my mother's approval never could. I saved the video to the USB drive, labeled it recognition without introduction, and I didn't tell a soul. The engagement dinner was set for Saturday evening, 3 days before my mother called. Her voice was brisk, practiced, the kind she used when managing events, not speaking to her daughter. "Don't forget, 6 o'clock sharp, they've reserved that new place downtown, Stonecroft, I think it's called." I hesitated. "I'm not sure I should come." A pause, too short to be surprised, too long to be warm. "Why wouldn't you?" she said. Then, before I could answer, she added, "Just don't bring up your website thing too much. Hannah's family is very accomplished." Ivy League types. I almost laughed. "Got it," I said. She didn't mention the buttons. She didn't catch the sarcasm. She never does. That night, I stood in front of my closet, looking at rows of plain black pants and gray sweaters, the kind of clothes that say, "I'm not trying to stand out." Then I pulled out a dress I hadn't worn in years, dark green, sleeveless, simple, ending just below the knee, quiet but bold. I laid it on the bed next to the wooden USB stick, not to make a big point, just to remind myself who I was when no one else seemed to remember. The next day, my email pinged. It was from Mom. Subject, dress guidance. She wrote, "Nothing too bold, no pantsuits, something feminine, please." She even attached pictures, women wearing pearls, soft hairstyles, smiling like they had nothing to prove. I didn't reply. She wasn't really asking, she was giving instructions. But I wasn't following them anymore. On Friday, I met with our new intern, Marisol, a freshman full of excitement and questions about making websites easier for older people to use. After our meeting, a woman at the next table leaned over. "Sorry to bother you, are you Claire Monroe from Brightbridge?" I froze for a second. "Yes," I said, carefully. She smiled wide. "My dad's been using your app. He sent me a meme yesterday. I didn't even know he knew what a meme was." I smiled back, really smiled, for the first time that week. Maybe I wasn't invisible. Maybe I was just looking for the wrong people to see me. Stonecroft was all brass fixtures and quiet lighting, the kind of place where the butter came with sea salt and the air smelled faintly of lemon oil and money. I arrived 10 minutes early. I always do. My mother looked surprised to see me, not pleased, just surprised. "Oh, you came. You asked me to," I said. She gave a tight smile. Her eyes skimmed my dress, pausing for half a second too long. "It's bold." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The hostess led me to the long table in the private room, 12 seats. I was placed at the end, next to the emergency exit and the extra silverware tray, of course. I unfolded my napkin, smoothed it across my lap, poured myself water, and waited. David and Hannah arrived 15 minutes later, glowing, full of ease. They made their way down the line of relatives, hugs, handshakes, laughter that had rhythm. Hannah hugged me too, lightly, politely, not knowing, not yet. Dinner began with small talk and champagne. David's boss toasted with a story about performance metrics. Hannah's father spoke about legacy and tradition like they were family heirlooms passed down in perfect condition. I nodded, smiled when it was expected, stayed invisible until dessert arrived. Some delicate construction of chocolate and sea salt, and Hannah, seated just across from me, now turned with a curious expression. "I've been meaning to ask, Claire, what do you do again?" The clinking of forks softened, the background hum thinned. I took a sip of water, steady and slow. I run a digital platform that helps older adults stay connected, tech literacy, accessibility tools, that sort of thing. Hannah tilted her head. Oh, like Zoom classes? More like adaptive systems built for long-term engagement. We focus on screen readers, large print, voice input. She blinked. What's it called? Brightbridge. Then it happened. Her eyes widened, her breath caught. No, no way, you're Brightbridge? Hannah stared at me, her voice dropped into a hush as she leaned forward. Wait, you're Brightbridge? It wasn't a question, it was recognition. I gave a slight nod, no dramatics, just the truth finally letting itself be seen. The room didn't go quiet all at once, it settled like dust after something heavy falls. She blinked and said my full name slowly, Claire Monroe. And then mentioned the campaign, the testimonials, the face behind the platform. That was me. David looked confused. Hannah turned to him, explaining how Brightbridge had helped her grandmother, how they'd connected every Sunday through video calls, how those last months felt less lonely because of it. Her voice caught when she said she died feeling connected, not forgotten. No one moved. My mother's hand hovered over her glass, frozen mid-reach. Someone set down a fork too loudly. The silence afterward was louder. Then Hannah said something that landed like a quiet bell ringing through the room. She gave us more time. She looked at me again and asked, not accusing, just baffled, why didn't you say anything? I told her gently that it hadn't felt like the right time. David, still processing, leaned toward me and said, I never knew. I met his gaze and replied simply, you never asked. I didn't say it to wound him, just to let it stand. A small truth finally allowed air. That's when it changed. One of David's colleagues leaned over and asked about the platform's accessibility features. Another mentioned a parent struggling with tech. Could Brightbridge help? I answered calmly. I didn't need to convince anyone. The work spoke for itself. Across the table, my aunt blinked slowly, then said almost to herself, that's actually incredible. My father looked down at his plate. My mother, still holding her glass, hadn't spoken a word. It wasn't anger I felt, not pride, either, just presence. The quiet satisfaction of finally being whole in a room that once preferred me broken or silent. For years, I'd sat at tables like this one, invisible. But now, without ever raising my voice, the narrative had shifted. Not because I demanded it, not because I embarrassed anyone, just because the truth had walked in beside me, and refused to sit in the corner anymore. The rest of the evening unfolded in a strange, softened light. Conversations, once carefully curated, began to ripple in new directions. People asked about the platform, where it operated, how it started, what it had done during the pandemic. Names were exchanged, cards offered, a few even asked if I'd ever considered expanding to their states. I answered each with quiet clarity, not selling, just sharing. Hannah stayed close by, still glowing with something between pride and disbelief. I noticed the way she looked at David, then back at me, like she was seeing the family differently now. Later, as people stood to leave, David caught up to me near the coat rack. He shifted his weight awkwardly, hands in his pockets, voice low. I'm sorry we never asked. That was it, no speech, no qualifiers, just a sentence left open like a door that had never quite closed. I nodded, not because it fixed anything, but because it was enough. That night, my mother didn't speak to me directly, but I saw her watching from across the room, the way her eyes lingered longer than they used to, as if recalibrating a picture she thought she'd already framed. And this time, I didn't shrink beneath it. I didn't rush to fill the silence. I didn't offer reassurance. Let her sit with it. Let them all sit with it. Because sometimes the apology isn't the twist. The twist is that I no longer needed to keep going. 2 mornings later, I found a letter in my mailbox. Real paper, real ink, the handwriting unmistakable, my mother's. No text message, no subject line, just a folded piece of heavy cream stationery with my name spelled in full across the front. Inside, her words were careful, not flowery, not rehearsed. I watched the video Hannah submitted. I cried. Not because I didn't know what you'd built, but because I realized I never once asked. She went on. I was so focused on what you stepped away from. I never saw what you were walking toward. You did something no one in this family ever dared. You failed. Then you kept going. And in doing that, you gave people something I never knew they'd lost, the feeling of being connected. Of being seen. It wasn't an apology, not exactly, but it was something more honest. She signed it simply, Love, Mom. No grand ending, no plea for a call, just the letter, folded once, hand-delivered. I read it 3 times, then slid it into the top drawer of my desk next to the wooden USB. I didn't frame it, I didn't reply. Because this time, I didn't need to hang her words on a wall to make them real. This time, I was already standing in what I'd built. And that was enough. 3 weeks later, I stood at the front of a modest community center auditorium. No stage lights, no press, just 50 folding chairs and a pot of weak coffee on a plastic table near the back. The audience was mixed, a few retirees, a librarian or two, and a high schooler who had brought her grandfather. I told them about Brightbridge, not the numbers, not the growth. I told them about Mrs. Denning and her iPad, about the first time someone emailed me just to say, I feel capable again. I told them I had once walked away from the life everyone else wanted for me, and had stumbled into something better. A life I could actually recognize as mine. When the room stood to clap, I didn't cry. But I did smile. The kind that starts in your spine and works its way up. The kind you don't perform for anyone else. That night at home, I printed out a quote and taped it to my fridge. They'll say you let them down until the day they realize you were the one holding the light. No signature, no explanation. Below it, my reflection in the fridge door, steady, softened, full. Not because they finally saw me, but because I finally stopped needing them to.